Exposed, rich fiancé's mudsplash leads to heartwarming transformation of poor ex-wife and son. The butterflies danced in Sarah's stomach as she walked through the bustling community park, laughter and music swirling around her like leaves in a cheerful autumn breeze. This was supposed to be a thrilling day, a fundraiser meant to bring neighbors together. But little did she know, today would change everything. Just as she was about to grab a hot dog for Jake, it happened like a movie scene, but much messier. A car zoomed past, and with it, a torrent of mud splashed all over her, soaking her clothes and ruining her carefully styled hair. The laughter echoed loudly as she felt the burning heat of humiliation. Then, she spotted Emily, her ex-husband's fiancée, standing just a few feet away, smirking. Emily was the embodiment of privilege, her designer dress likely worth more than Sarah's entire wardrobe. Sarah felt frail, standing there in her faded jeans, the weight of judgment heavy with every whispered word around her. Just then, Jake stepped up, his bright eyes sparkling with a mix of determination and mischief. "Don't worry, Mom. It's just mud." He laughed, already grabbing napkins to help her clean up. In that moment, Sarah saw her son transform into a knight in shining armor, cheering her up despite her embarrassment. "See? You're still pretty." He grinned, wiping mud off her cheek. The warmth of his words wrapped around her like a cozy blanket, and though her heart raced with anxiety, there was a flicker of hope. Suddenly, Jake veered closer to Emily, the child in him utterly unaware of the whirlwind of feelings raging within Sarah. Surrounded by the rich and the privileged, here he was, waving happily at Emily. "Are you really marrying my dad?" he asked, his innocent curiosity shining through the chaos. Emily's eyes softened, and she crouched to answer him, her laughter mingling with his. "Yeah, but we can still be friends," she declared, and for a moment, something shifted in the air. As Sarah listened, it felt like the ground beneath her feet was trembling. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Sarah stood there frozen, she felt her insecurities bubbling back to the surface, clawing at her insides like wild animals. She fought the tears pooling behind her eyes. The contrast was stark, Emily with her sparkling engagement ring and tailored clothes, and here was Sarah, engulfed in embarrassment, her dreams evaporating like smoke in the wind. She had spent years trying to be the best mother she could be, yet doubt whispered that she was coming up short. Just as everything seemed to be settling, Jake turned back to her, beaming. He finally had someone to look up to, but deep down, Sarah feared losing him to this new world of luxury. When Emily beckoned him back, inviting him for ice cream, Sarah felt a chill. Would this be the start of new bonds? Or the unraveling of everything they fought for? Were they headed toward a hopeful tomorrow or a bitter distance? As the laughter and chatter of the crowd swirled around her, Sarah's heart raced. She felt a storm brewing inside, a battle between despair and hope. Today had thrown her off balance, but there was no way she was backing down. Her son deserved the best, and so did she. She took a deep breath, ready to address the uncertainties of this day head-on, uncertain of where the path would lead but determined to hold her ground. What lay ahead was unknown, but she was ready to fight for her and Jake's future no matter the cost. As Sarah stood tense in the park, the echoes of laughter and joyful chatter faded into a dull murmur. Everything felt surreal, like an old movie that played on a loop, reminding her of good times now smeared with mud. The colorful booths, friendly faces, and even the enticing scent of popcorn felt miles away, like an unreachable dream. "Mom, let's go get ice cream." Jake's voice cut through her thoughts. His hopeful eyes sparkled as he glanced between her and Emily. That innocent enthusiasm tugged at her heart, urging her to be strong. But as she looked at him, excited for the treat, a wave of uncertainty washed over her. "Sweetie. I think we should get cleaned up first," she hesitated, not wanting to ruin his happiness. She forced a smile, hoping it belied the storm raging within her. Emily crouched down beside Jake, her voice soft and welcoming. "Ice cream is a great idea. How about we all go together?" Her smile seemed genuine, and for a moment, the tension in Sarah's chest eased. Could it be possible that they found common ground? Sarah hesitated. This was Emily. The woman who had stolen not just her husband but an important part of her life. Yet, here she was, inviting them into her world as if nothing had ever happened. Just then, Jake grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the ice cream stand. "Come on, Mom. Please." His pleading eyes were contagious, and she felt torn. Deep breaths, Sarah. For him, she mustered her courage. "Okay, let us go," she said, forcing a cheerful tone. They walked together, Jake's tiny hand engulfed in hers, leading them toward the colorful cart with its swirling, creamy delights. As they approached, the chatter of townsfolk filled the air, laughter intertwining with the clinking of cones and the sizzle of food. The warmth of summer wrapped around them, momentarily easing her worries. Jake bounced from one foot to the other, his impatience palpable. "Mom, can I get sprinkles? Can I?" His enthusiasm was contagious, and Sarah couldn't help but let out a small laugh. "Of course, buddy. You get all the sprinkles you want," she replied, despite an inner voice murmuring reminders of her insecurities. They reached the stand, and Emily found them, casual and full of warmth as she leaned against the cart. "What flavor should we get?" she asked, a genuine smile stretching across her face. To Sarah's surprise, Jake beamed at Emily. "You should try chocolate chip cookie dough. It's the best," he exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Emily chuckled, and Sarah felt the world tilt slightly. A new dynamic was unfolding right in front of her, and though she feared it, she also felt a strange pull. While they waited for their orders, Sarah couldn't ignore the whispers around her or the twitch of her heart. She couldn't pretend that everything was fine. But seeing Jake so happy made her resolve to keep putting one foot in front of the other no matter how deep the mud. When their ice creams finally filled their hands, Sarah took a deep breath. "Jake, can we sit over there?" She pointed to a bench under a sprawling oak tree, hoping for a moment alone to gather her thoughts. As they settled in, she watched Jake dive into his sweet treat, savoring every bite, excitement lighting up his face. But that joy was bittersweet for Sarah. "How about you, Mom? You love mint chocolate chip, right?" Jake turned to her, eyes wide with hope. "Yeah, I do," she replied, her heart swelling with love, and yet a voice inside her remained uneasy. As she looked at Emily laughing with other kids, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before the storm. How would she fit into this new world? The truth settled in her stomach like a heavy stone. She had to confront how she felt about her ex-husband's life and the new family being formed without her. Would she embrace it, or would it shatter everything she had tried to rebuild with Jake? As they finished their ice cream and the sun dipped lower, Sarah caught Emily's south gaze across the park, the rich fiancé now a looming figure in her life. There was no turning back now. What would happen next? How could Sarah navigate the unsettled waters ahead, caught between heartbreak and hopes? As they lingered on that bench, the questions loomed like clouds before a storm, waiting for the first sign to break. Sarah watched the sunset bleed into shades of orange and purple, the vibrant sky clashing with the turmoil in her heart. Jake laughed and smeared ice cream on his cheek, the little boy's innocence making her smile despite the heavy thoughts weighing down on her. She wished things could be simple again, like they were before. "Mom, look! I got sprinkles." He lifted his cone triumphantly, the sugary bits tumbling like tiny jewels against the deep chocolate. "Looks perfect, buddy," she replied, her voice softening. In that moment, he was a beacon of light, cutting through the shadows that threatened to suffocate her, yet, as she surveyed the park, Sarah felt that familiar ache rise again. The laughter of families, the couples holding hands, and especially the sight of Emily playfully ruffling the hair of the kids nearby sent painful jabs to her chest. Would she ever be a part of this kind of joy again? She took a deep breath, steeling herself as Emily approached them. Jake didn't seem to notice her discomfort, obliviously excited to show off his ice cream masterpiece. "Isn't that great?" Emily asked Jake, leaning in closer, clearly enjoying the moment. "Yeah. Mom said I can have all the sprinkles." Jake replied, his eyes bright. "Good for you, little buddy." Emily laughed, a warm sound that surged with familiarity. It was an echo of the past that made Sarah's heart ache all the more. Emily," Sarah finally spoke, her voice slightly raspy, "we need to talk." Soft surprise crossed Emily's face. "Sure, Sarah. What's on your mind?" The straightforwardness of it all shook Sarah. She wanted to scream, to shatter the calm, but instead, she swallowed her fear. I feel like everything's changing so fast. I need to know how we're supposed to act. Just because we're all here together does not mean I'm okay with everything." Emily nodded slowly, her expression shifting from surprise to something softer, almost understanding. "I get that you're hurting, Sarah. I really do. It's hard for all of us." Jake looked between them, bewildered. "Are you guys okay?" "Yeah, buddy," Sarah reassured him, forcing another smile. "Just grown-up stuff." She felt Jake's hand squeeze hers, grounding her. "Grown-up stuff is complicated," Emily said gently. "But I'd like to think there's room for us all, for Jake especially. He loves you, you're his mom." Sarah felt a sting of tears in her eyes. "You think so?" "I just can't help but feel out of place." Emily shrugged, an easy, casual gesture. "It's a big shift for everyone. It doesn't have to mean there's no place for you. He adores you, Sarah. That matters. I know I'm a part of his life now, but I will never take the place of his mom." There was sincerity in Emily's tone that rattled Sarah. It was a truth she hadn't expected to hear. They were working toward the same goal, the happiness of one little boy who was blissfully unaware of the tension. "Mom, can we get a picture?" Jake's voice broke the moment, his bright smile shining like sunshine. Before Sarah could respond, Emily had her phone out and was already positioning the three of them into a pose. "Let's capture this family moment." Family moment, the words hung heavily in Sarah's mind. How could she wrap her heart around that idea? The thought both thrilled and terrified her. But as their arms intertwined, she felt the tight band of fear loosening a little, the corners of her heart softening. "Say ice cream." They all shouted, and in that moment, Sarah hesitated but then smiled genuinely, feeling a flicker of acceptance. Maybe this could be okay after all. As they stepped back to look at the picture, Sarah realized the shifting layout of her life could still have beauty. But lurking beneath that beauty, the questions remained, teasing her like wisps of fog. Would she ever truly be comfortable in this new dynamic? Emily caught Sarah's eye, and for the first time, there was a hint of understanding there. "One day at a time, right?" Sarah nodded, the weight of uncertainty still lingering. What would come next as the shadows loomed over this newfound understanding? The following days blurred together, with Sarah's heart oscillating between hope and despair. Each morning began with a gnawing uncertainty, yet the laughter of Jake echoed in her mind, urging her to push through. One Saturday, the air buzzed with promise. Jake had invited the neighborhood kids for an afternoon at the nearby playground, and Emily suggested they all join. The thought terrified Sarah. The idea of confronting the blend of old and new, her past and the possibilities for her future, strung her up like a kite tethered to a restless wind. "Mom, can we?" Jake's eyes sparkled with excitement as he clutched his favorite blue dinosaur toy. "Sure, buddy. Sounds like fun," she managed to say, masking the knot tightening in her chest. As they arrived, the playground teemed with laughter, the sweet fragrance of cotton candy wafting through the air. Children raced down slides and swung high into the sky, their joy infectious. Sarah perched on a bench, her heart racing a little faster each time she saw Jake smile, his giggles cutting through her apprehension. Emily approached, her hair catching the sun, illuminating the softness in her features. "Want to join us?" she asked, a smile enhancing her already inviting presence. "No, that's okay. I'm just going to watch." "Watching is good too," Emily said, her eyes kind. "But if you want, I can take Jake up the slide. He seems to be itching to give it a go with someone." Sarah felt a pang of resentment mixed with gratitude. She swallowed hard. "No, it's fine. I mean, I can do that." And just like that, she dug deep to forge the first step into the unknown. As they approached the playground, the perception of the moment shifted. The whispers of ex-wife hung in the air, but mingled with it was a sly smile that Jake shot her as he took off toward his friends. Her pulse quickened as she climbed onto the equipment. The laughter of the children enveloped her, wrapping her in a cocoon of warmth, making her momentarily forget the heaviness of the world outside this space. Jake begged her to slide down with him. With one gentle nudge, they flew down together, whooping all the way, a shared joy that filled the air. Emily's encouragement hung in her heart, soothing like balm. As they took turns sliding, Sarah found herself genuinely laughing, the sound surprising even herself. "Mom, let us race!" Jake shouted, his energy bubbling over. The children lined up next to Sarah, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "On your mark," she said, adrenaline racing through her, "get set go." The laughter was infectious as they all surged down together, feet flying and arms flailing. Sarah noticed a few parents watching, their smiles reflecting her delight, and suddenly, the tension dissipated. After several rounds, they flopped down onto the grass, thoroughly spent but grinning. A few kids rolled around, shrieking in glee, capturing the carefree essence of a weekend afternoon. "Did you see that, Mom?" Jake shouted breathlessly, excitement dripping from his words. "You were so fast." She ruffled his hair. "You were amazing, too." Emily joined them, smiling widely. "You should come back to the park more often. It's good for your heart, Sarah." The statement struck a chord, her heart was indeed a little lighter. As the sun began to dip low, casting a golden glow over the park, Sarah finally allowed herself to breathe a little deeper. But hidden beneath that joy, doubt lingered. Was this just a fleeting moment of happiness, or a glimpse into something more lasting? Jake's laughter echoed around her, pulling her back into reality. Just then, a familiar face walked in, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected him here, and memories of their past pushed to the surface, tightening her chest again. "Hey, is that you?" he called out, a smile spreading across his face. Sarah turned to Emily, whose eyes widened in recognition. Time stood still as they locked gazes, uncertainty flushing Sarah's cheeks. What would this mean for her newfound joy? As his approach quickened, the warmth of that day began to evaporate, and a question loomed above them both, heavy and unyielding. Would he be a hurdle or a bridge in her journey forward? Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her as he got closer. The laughter around her faded into a dull hum, her heart pounding a rapid staccato. It was David, her ex-husband, striding toward her with an easy confidence, that same warmth she had once found so comforting now sending icy waves through her veins. "Wow, it's been a while," he said, running a hand through his hair, a habit she remembered well. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes, and Sarah struggled to match it. "Yeah, it has," she replied, forcing the words past the constriction in her throat. Jake bounded over, his excitement unabated. "Dad! Look at the awesome race we just had." His beam brightened the space between them, a pure reminder of why they both stood there, but it also deepened the conflict inside Sarah. "Hey, buddy." David knelt down, pulling Jake into a tight embrace. The moment sparked a flicker of something in Sarah, a mix of nostalgia and sorrow, a bittersweet reminder of what had once been whole. Sarah, he turned to her, his voice softer now, laced with something akin to regret. I didn't know you'd be here. Just bringing Jake to play, she said, desperately trying to mask the trembling discomfort. She wanted to sound casual. Friendly. You're doing a great job, David replied, gesturing to where Jake was fully immersed in his new friends, completely oblivious to the tension that buzzed like static electricity in the air. Thanks, she murmured, but the words felt half empty. How have you been? He asked, and for a fleeting moment, the warmth of an old connection sparked between them. She searched his face for any sign of the emotion she had once loved. Busy working, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. That seemed to be the right answer, as it carved a moment of understanding in the shifting landscapes of their past. David nodded. I get it. Life is hectic, he said, glancing towards Jake. It's great to see him so happy. A wave of protectiveness surged through her. He is happy, she affirmed gently. Just then, a group of kids came barreling toward them, shrieking with delight over a mud puddle they had discovered. Before she could fully process the moment, Jake was off, running, tumbling, laughter trailing behind him like ripples on water. Careful. Sarah called out, but the jovial chaos swept away her warning. You know, he's really doing well, David said, his eyes tracing Jake's every move. Looks like you're handling things beautifully, Sarah. His compliment hung in the air awkwardly, but it also caused a flicker of warmth in her chest. Thanks, she replied, a slight smile breaking through her defenses. Beneath the surface, however, a torrent of questions swirled. Did he mean it? Did he care? I was thinking of coming to see him more often, he continued. Is that okay? Her breath hitched. You want to see him? The moment ignited her heart's curiosity and fears. Of course, he said earnestly. He is my son. At that moment, as she watched the children shrieking, splashing in the mud, something in Sarah snapped into focus. Clarity mixed with confusion, relief intertwined with fear. She had fought so hard to make a stable life for Jake. But the idea of David being more present illuminated a potential future they hadn't explored. I'll think about it, she replied, feeling the weight of her response settle heavily on her shoulders. Just then, a shriek went up from the kids as Jake, shrieking with laughter, took a leap, only to land smack dab in the mud. It splashed everywhere, coating both him and some laughter-filled parents nearby. In an instant, laughter erupted, breaking the somber tension that had surrounded them. David chuckled, shaking his head as Jake stood up grinning, a mud-streaked marvel of joy. Sarah caught David's eye, laughter shining in the corners of her heart. What if their shared experiences could bring them to a new understanding? But was she ready for that? Could rebuilding trust be the bridge back to something new? As they stood there, the shadows of uncertainty coiled tightly around her heart, ready to tug her away or pull her closer, and deep within, the most daunting question simmered: could they really open a new chapter together? The laughter from the nearby children swelled around Sarah, wrapping her in a blanket of unpredictability. She watched as Jake joyfully embraced the chaos, mud dripping from his chin, his eyes sparkling with mischief and delight. For a moment, the simple joy he radiated pulled her away from the heaviness that seemed to linger like a fog between her and David. Look at him, David said, his voice breaking into her thoughts. He's got your spirit. The comment hit her like a warm breeze on a cold day. It evoked a smile, but it also tore at the soft edges of her heart. She remembered the countless evenings spent drawing pictures together, the silly songs they sang, and how her world had turned inside out when David left. His presence, however fleeting, felt like an unsettled invitation to revisit their past, and she wasn't sure how she felt about that. While the laughter continued to float around them, Sarah's pulse raced. The memories of shared dreams flashed before her, reminders of how life had been before the split when they believed in rebuilding a future together, hand in hand. Could they ever return to that vision, or were those days nothing but wisps of dreams? Sarah. David's voice cut into her reverie, and she felt herself jerk back to the present. He looked both hopeful and cautious, a cocktail of emotions that stirred something deep inside her. "What is it?" she asked, keeping her tone light yet guarded. He hesitated, glancing toward Jake, who was now convincing a group of giggling children to join him in another muddy escapade. "I know things didn't end the way we wanted, but I want to be part of his life again. I miss all of this." His admission was like a pebble tossed into a still pond, sending ripples across the surface. Did he really mean that? For the first time since he approached her, she dared to hope, but her heart cautioned her against making quick judgments. "David, it isn't just about you and me," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Jake deserves stability. He needs to know what to expect." David nodded, a shadow creeping over his features. "I get that, I do. But I want to be there for him. I want him to know his dad is around, cheering him on." The challenge lay heavy between them. Could they find a way to navigate their shared responsibilities without being dragged into old patterns? The thought sent a spark of fear through her, tempered by a flicker of hope. Jake squealed with joy as he jumped into the puddle again, sending more mud flying. The children around him erupted into laughter, their carefree spirits a reminder of the innocence they all longed to protect. It was a joyous spectacle, and for a heartbeat, life felt almost perfect. "Can we at least try?" David asked cautiously, his eyes searching hers. "I want to show him who I can be now, no more regrets." Was she being foolish? Here was this man who had once left, now standing in front of her with a vulnerable plea. Her heart ached as she thought of Jake growing up without that fatherly presence. Yet, trusting him would mean allowing old wounds to bleed anew. She took a breath. "Let's take it slow," she finally said, her voice resolute. "We'll see how things go. For Jake's sake." Relief washed over David's face, and for the first time, Sarah saw a glimmer of the man she once loved, someone who cared enough to stand up and try again. As the sun dipped lower in the sky and the laughter echoed around them, she found herself again caught between fear and possibility. Life was unpredictable, but maybe, just maybe, they could start to redefine their family in a way that was different from the past. But just as hope swelled within her, a sudden shout broke through the laughter. One of the parents had slipped in the muddy chaos, tumbling into the mess with a dramatic flair. The laughter swelled even louder, but the moment of light-hearted distraction sent her heart racing all over again. In the aftermath of the laughter, Sarah caught David's gaze, a flicker of concern lining his brow. Each playful shout echoed a question in her mind: could laughter be the bridge to healing, even in the face of uncertainty? And she couldn't shake off the unsettling truth that the real test of change lay just ahead. What would happen when the dust settled? As the sun dipped lower, the park shimmered with golden light, casting long shadows that danced among the muddy chaos. Laughter still bubbled up, but Sarah felt a shift in the air. The laughter around her now felt strangely layered, hinting at something deeper: fears and hopes all rolled into one vibrant moment. Jake, still festooned in mud, ran back toward them, his little legs pumping with excitement. "Mom! Look! I made a splash bigger than the puddle river." He outstretched his hands, his dirty fingers flailing in delight. Sarah chuckled, the sound brightening her heart. "That's amazing," she responded, bending down to envelop him in a squeeze that tightened the bond held between mother and son. As she inhaled the sweet, earthy scent clinging to him, she couldn't help but feel a sense of grounding, a moment where everything felt aligned. But David's presence loomed larger beside her. They stood together, sharing this small world of happiness, but shadows still lingered in the corners of her mind. "Do you think he can really trust you now?" she wondered outside of herself, confronting the concern she'd been boxing away. "I want to be trustworthy," David said quietly, his eyes earnest. "I've messed up before. I won't make excuses. I just want to show him, to show you that I can be different." His tone spoke volumes, both an apology and a promise wrapped into one. In that moment, the connection between them felt electric. Old wounds rumbled in the deep, but the promise of healing shimmered just above the surface like morning dew. Jake wriggled free from her embrace, darting back to the playground, igniting a chain reaction of laughter among the other children. Sarah looked after him, the sight of his small body illuminated with joy tugging her heart. But before she could sink into the warmth of the moment, David's voice drifted back to her, pulling her focus once again. "I want to take him out this weekend," he suggested hesitantly, like he would suggest ice cream instead of a sour lemon. "Just a few hours. Maybe the zoo." The idea sent a jolt through her. Part of her fought against it. Protecting Jake from disappointment seemed wise. Yet, hadn't she just vowed to try? The real question thudded in her chest: could she let go of the past enough to allow this new possibility? As if sensing her hesitation, David's eyes softened. "I promise, Sarah. I won't let him down again. Just give me a chance." The word again hung heavy between them, laden with memories of missteps and missed opportunities. But was it possible they could take a baby step toward healing? Sarah wandered through the maze of her thoughts, searching for clarity amid the tangled threads of trust and the love of their child. Let us discuss it," she replied finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have to make sure it's right for Jake first." David nodded, swallowing hard, and Sarah could see the tension easing slightly from his shoulders. She almost wanted to believe he meant it deep down where hope lay hidden behind all the scars of the past. The children cackled once more as mud flew through the air, and Jake's gleeful shouts filled the late afternoon. For a fleeting moment, it felt like maybe, just maybe, laughter could truly become the bridge they needed, but the sudden sound of a nearby argument broke through their little world. Two adults were clashing like thunderheads, their voices rising against the murmur of joy surrounding them. The unexpected discord sent a wave of anxiety surging through Sarah, making her stomach twist. What disruption could this chaos bring to the delicate threads of their newly rekindled harmony? Gazing at David, she could see it in his eyes too. The shared concern mirrored a worry that threatened to wash away their hard-earned moment. And she understood now that healing wasn't a straight path. It was a winding road layered with twists and unexpected turns, each one bringing the potential for more connections or a chance to spiral back into mistrust. What were they about to uncover in this park, amidst laughter and conflict? Can peace hold on when shadows stand close? The argument escalated quickly, echoing through the park like a siren. Voices rose high, sharp with anger and desperation. A man waved his arms furiously, while a woman stood her ground, fists clenched at her sides. Children nearby paused, their laughter dying, eyes widened, caught between the thrill of play and the heaviness in the air. Sarah glanced at David, her heart racing. "Should we?" But before she could finish, Jake, blissfully unaware of the tension, darted toward the scene, drawn by the drama unfolding like a magnet. "Mom! What's happening?" he exclaimed, his mud-covered face a picture of innocent curiosity. "Stay back, buddy," David said, his voice firm yet gentle. He stepped forward, urgency pulsing in each movement as he shielded Jake with his body, instinctively becoming a barrier against any negativity that threatened his son. "Let us go back to the playground," Sarah urged, her palms now clammy. She felt a mix of protectiveness and frustration. The last thing she wanted was for Jake to witness anger like this, but Jake's gaze remained glued to the shouting adults, his innocent eyes searching for understanding. "But I want to see." Just then, a sharp yell pierced the air, and Sarah flinched. It was a cry that twisted something deep in her, stirring old fears, memories of arguments, of worlds colliding, and lives shattering. "I can't," she started, feeling the weight of the moment bearing down on her. Her mind raced with those familiar scenes of hurt. If David had faltered once, could he falter again? Just when they seemed on the brink of healing, would this chaos drag them back? "Dad, what's wrong with them?" Jake innocently asked, tilting his head, unaware of how much deeper the question ran. David glanced down at Jake, and for a heartbeat, he looked lost. The fight between the adults seemed so far removed from the pure joy their son radiated. It was a moment of fragility, a splinter in their peace threatening to unravel everything. But David took a breath, and Sarah could see a decision forming in his eyes. "Sometimes people don't know how to share their feelings," he said quietly. It can get loud. But we're all okay here. Sometimes, it's best to focus on the things we love. Jake's face scrunched up in confusion. Why aren't they playing like us then? Sarah felt a surge of warmth. Jake had an innate ability to strip away the layers of complexity and get straight to the heart of it all. You're right, buddy, she said softly to him. They should just play like us. It dawned on her then that they had a choice. In this moment, they could either let the chaos consume their peace or reclaim it together. Do you want to show Dad your splash again? She asked, pulling Jake close. His eyes lit up. Yeah. It was huge. David smiled, the tension beginning to loosen as he grabbed Jake's muddy hands. Let me see it. Lead the way, little man. As they turned back toward the playground, Sarah found herself walking beside David. Their steps fell into rhythm, a shared goal igniting the flicker of connection. Maybe they wouldn't let the argument shatter their moment. Maybe they could build a fortress of laughter against the noise, but as they neared the playground, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed around them. The sounds of joy and conflict intertwined, mingling in ways she had never considered. Would their attempt to shield Jake from pain truly add up to shielding him from the world, and more importantly, how could they navigate through their broken past towards something new, especially when storms could arise at any moment? As they reached the edge of the playground, Sarah's heart pounded with the thrill of uncertainty. Was this the day they began healing, or were they simply sweeping the dirt under the rug? Just then, a commotion erupted, pulling her attention back. A woman from the earlier fight stumbled away, eyes wide, face pale. Sarah's heart sank at the unexpected sight. What now? What else was waiting in the shadows just beyond their fragile patch of joy? The woman from the argument had stumbled close now, her breath coming in quick, sharp gasps. Her skin glistened with a sheen of panic, her dark hair flapped wildly in the wind as if trying to escape the scene around her. The bright colors of her floral dress seemed jarring, contrasting sharply with her frantic state. Sarah instinctively tightened her grip on Jake's hand, heart thrumming as questions raced through her mind. Are you okay? David called out, stepping toward the woman. His protective instinct kicked in, surprising Sarah with its immediacy. Was he the same man who had once teetered on the edge of their own storm? The woman shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. They're coming. They were fighting, and now she paused, the weight of her words crashing down like the thunder that bore witness to their anger moments ago. Sarah exchanged a quick glance with David, catching the worry mirrored in his eyes. Who is coming? She pressed, heart pounding thicker now. Jake shifted beside her, sensing the shift in the air. The neighbors, the woman said, her voice shaking as the anxiety poured out of her. The police warned us just this morning about the escalations in our community. I didn't think it would happen here. What can we do? David asked, scanning the park, eyes darting to the horizon. His voice now exuded urgency, but beneath it was that familiar assurance Sarah knew well, resolve. The woman hesitated. Just stay together. It's better in numbers. Jake shifted again, sensing the turbulent mood, his innocent curiosity replaced with concern. Mom, I don't like this. Can we go? Sarah crouched alongside him, forcing a smile that wavered. Just a little longer, love. We need to help. She stood again, the resolve that had forged through years of hardships flooding back. They would help this stranger. Perhaps it was the universe pushing them to prove the history of pain hadn't fully defined them. Let us all move toward the center, David commanded, a leader once more, as Jake nodded, still holding tightly to Sarah's hand. The group of adults, still stirred from the argument moments ago, began to close ranks. Some parents gathered their children, eyes wide with concern. Others stood frozen, whispering hurriedly, trying to make sense of the chaos around them. As they moved slowly, inching toward the playground's equipment, Sarah noticed a shift in the adults around her. They were still on edge, but there was a warmth, the beginning of a community rising in response to fear. She felt it, too. That desperate need for connection, a reminder that when storms collide, sometimes they forged moving skies. Look! The slide! Jake shouted, pointing with all the excitement he could muster, momentarily pulling them away from the trepidation. The blue one. That's the biggest. Laughter erupted, a reluctant, yet genuine laugh. It spread like wildfire through the adults as they followed the child's enthusiasm, caught in their innocent thread. Come on then. David replied, mimicking Jake's giddy excitement. The slide's waiting for you. For a fleeting moment, the earlier tension melted away. Was this what they needed? A moment of shared joy amidst uncertainty, but then the haunting cries returned, a siren in the distance, mingled voices growing louder again, not unlike scraps of that earlier argument. Sarah's smile faltered, slipping to doubt. Were they really safe? Would shadows swallow this light? As they gathered around the slide, anticipation crackled in the air. But fears clawed deeper. The weight of their shared moment hovered precariously. Would they ever find a steady ground free from storms? Jake climbed up, so innocent, so full of hope, and Sarah felt the distance between that hope and the alarming reality expand before her eyes. Would they, too, stand strong against what lurked in the shadows, or would they fracture under pressure just like the anger-fueled adults before them? The siren's moan drew closer and Sarah steeled herself, ready to face whatever came next. What would emerge from the turmoil threatening to engulf them? Would they rise, or would they succumb to the chaos? The moment felt electric, charged with uncertainty. Sarah glanced at David, her heart hammering as the sirens grew louder, sounding almost like a war cry echoing through her mind. She noticed the tension creeping back into the air, but then Jake's laughter cut through the noise, pure and bright like a beacon in the storm. Mom! Watch me! He climbed the slide again, his little feet scrambling up to the top. The innocence in his eyes reminded her of what mattered most, stirred her heart from the depths of worry, and warmed the chill of uncertainty. He waved, beaming. Here I go. Woo-hoo! Sarah cheered, her voice a rush of joy despite the chaos swirling around them. It felt good to reclaim that moment, to hold on to something bright even as shadows loomed. Your turn, Dad. Jake shouted down at David, pitching his little voice like a confident rallying cry. All right, I'm coming. David laughed, his earlier concern briefly washed away. He climbed up, and with one swift motion, he slid down, catching Jake in an enthusiastic hug at the bottom. They both landed in the grass, laughter bubbling over, shattering the tension like glass breaking apart. The transformation was palpable, a break in the storm. Adults nearby exchanged uncertain glances, but when they saw the joy on their faces, smiles began to flicker like early dawn. It wasn't about deflecting the chaos anymore, it was about embracing joy amidst it all, rallying in a way that stitched their community together just a little more. Mom! Let's race again. Jake tugged at her hand, and she felt that pull towards happiness, the kind that wrapped its tendrils around her heart. Okay, buddy. Let us go. She replied, her determination making her voice steady. As they raced down the slide together, her heart soared. Every giggle, every shared moment became an armor against the tempests raging beyond their playground. The sirens dimmed into a distant murmur, overshadowed by the playful shrieks and laughter that filled the park. Just then, as if summoned by the spark of laughter, the arguing adults returned to the present, their contention melting away like winter snow. They paused, some joining in the laughter and mirroring the joy that had filled the air. Mom, look! They're smiling too! Jake exclaimed, pointing to a couple of parents who had started to chuckle, becoming spectators of the innocent chaos. In that moment, something inside Sarah shifted. It was a realization, a possibility maybe they could reclaim family, friendship, and community from the shadows that had held them captive for so long. They celebrated small joys and shared laughter in a world that often felt chaotic. Maybe they could come together to do it again. David approached, catching her gaze and holding it, a deep understanding reflected in his eyes. Can we have more moments like this? Just like today? He asked quietly, his voice filled with sincerity. Maybe, Sarah replied thoughtfully, feeling the warmth of uncertainty unfold. Let's just take it slow. The flicker of promise ignited something hopeful between them, a potential spark. The laughter around them surged, enveloping them like a warm embrace from a dear friend. They might not know what tomorrow held, but today they had reclaimed joy. Jake, want to show your friends your biggest splash again? Designation confirmed in the clarity of the moment, she followed Jake's gaze as he energetically ushered his friends to the puddle, exclaiming, "It's going to be huge." As he splashed blissfully, Sarah felt a glimmer of peace. She stood close to David, their unspoken agreement hanging in the air together, they could forge a new path. And in that harmony of noise and laughter, she realized those storms may come, they, too, could rise against the tide. The sun began to set, spilling color across the horizon, casting a soft glow on their joyful chaos. That day twisted into a memory, an anchor forged by laughter and the hope of tomorrow. Maybe they could navigate through their past to something brighter, emerging from shadows into the light. As they gathered around the mud puddle, drenched in the laughter of a new beginning, Sarah felt a heart-swelling sense of hope. They were on the brink of something extraordinary, not just a reclamation of joy, but a path toward healing together. Together, she thought, and smiled, deeply satisfied. The sound of laughter grew, wrapping around them like a cherished memory, reminding her that with every storm comes the promise of clear skies. As the sun dipped below the horizon, it illuminated their figures, marking the end of one tumultuous chapter and the beginning of a hopeful new journey. And with that realization, the call of their next adventure rang clear. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support to keep the positivity flowing. Leave a like now to help this story reach more hearts. Comment below and tell us your feelings about this journey and all the transformations. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us keep inspiring each other.